Well, hello and welcome to this special edition of Switch of Play. Micky, how do you feel about it? We're back.
I know I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest. I think all the hype that surrounded our coming back, but no, it's great to be back. Great to speak to you, Mark. I know how busy you've been, and what a lot of people don't understand is how hard this is, especially for you, to the time it takes to edit and stuff like that. So it is being difficult, but it's nice to be back, and nice to be back with probably my favourite manager at Hartlepool, one that was a big influence on my career, and I spent a lot of time with when as a young coach. So. Really good guy, really good manager, and hopefully he'll have some good stories to tell.
He's one that, you know what, I don't think you ever really got a mention about bringing him on, but he's one that I'd really like to talk to. I'm looking forward to seeing what he's got to say because, like you, people ask me who was the best manager you worked with, and people probably expect you to say Neil Cooper because of what he achieved. But Danny Wilson gets the nod from me every time, even above Neil in terms of that, because he was just superb what he did for the football club, wasn't he? In terms of relegation, coming in and turning things around as quickly as he did was incredible, really.
Yeah, I think his experience showed. I think obviously he's managed before he came to us, and he'd seen all the scenarios you need to see, and he came in and he just gave everyone a bit of confidence back, and he give them sort of a bit of freedom as well to go and play some football. And I think the football we played under him was good. We obviously were successful. And but he had a demeanour about him. He had a personality that was infectious, and I'm not sure whether a lot of the fans saw that, but you will have seen it in the training ground how the lads loved him. They really did enjoy his company and enjoyed his coaching and enjoyed playing for him.
He had a blend, didn't he? Because you use the word gentleman there, and that is the perfect way to describe it, because he is the perfect gentleman. Wouldn't swear in front of women, very courteous to all the office staff. He did everything. He was just nobody I would imagine would have a bad word to say about him because he's such a lovely fella.
Yeah, he isn't, and even with the players, he used to raise his voice, but he wasn't a big screamer and shouter. He didn't swear a lot in the change room or get upset. He was very he hid his emotions well. And I think that's key to being a good manager. You don't want the players to see where. And he used to have a saying that if anyone came in our training ground, they shouldn't be able to tell whether you've won 3 games on the trot or lost 3 games on the trot. He said, because you shouldn't show that. It should be every day you work at the same sort of level. And I think that's just experience. He had that calm demeanour about him. And I think the players took that off him.
What's it like for you tonight? Obviously, you've done these episodes with former chairmen, with former managers before, but this one, he did have such an aura and respect about him. It must be, is it nerve-wracking to have him on?
It is. I mean, the Ken Hodcroft one, I was a bit nervous about that one. And a couple of others, Fletcher, I was a little bit nervous because I didn't know Fletcher that well. But this one for me, it's almost like if Danny says me to be quiet, I'll be quiet. It's that sort of thing. And I know he won't be. And as I say, I got on really well with him. I had a great time with him as well and learned so much from him. But it's almost like you're looking up to your boss again, and you go back to being, well, he's a gaffer. Whatever he says goes. I
know since we last did these, Micky, you stepped back into football with Blythe Spartans. Are you taking anything that Danny taught you, or anything you picked up into that role alongside Michael Nelson?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I was going to actually speak. I actually spoke to John Hughes about 10 days ago when he got his new job and said, look, I'd love to catch up and have a good conversation. So I'm going to speak to John just about how you would manage a situation. We're in at Blythe. Obviously, we're bottom of the league. We're struggling for victories. We're struggling for points, basically. And it's a young team who is in a tough division. We knew that, but it's been hard. But Nelson's really good. He's really ambitious and he wants to make the players better and move the club forward. So we're just trying to support him as best we can. So yeah, it's tough and it's hard. You get back on that bus after a defeat, and no matter what level you're at, it's not nice. So I'll be hoping to speak to Danny probably off air and trying to get some pearls of wisdom from him.
and lockdown as well. Micky obviously announced this week again. Lockdown. I think it's number 3 now, isn't it? Technically, I guess full on lockdown too, but it's horrible news, I guess, for everyone.
Yeah, it's difficult. I mean, the last week we've been self-isolating. Charlie tested positive. We had my daughter round on Christmas Day, and her and her boyfriend, a little boy, tested positive. So we all went for tests, and it was only Charlie saying he wasn't positive. and we all thought we had it, and it was him that came out. So he's been stuck in his bedroom for 4 or 5 days, and we've been in the house. So it's been difficult anyway. You can't go anywhere. And then obviously we were thinking we'll go back to school, and now we can't do that. So everything's at home again. And it's tough. I think it's tough. The isolation for me has been tough because I can't even take the dog out for a walk or get some real good exercise, which is, I think, mentally it's good for you. So, it's going to be a tough time where I think we all have to just help each other out and look out for each other.
Well, hopefully this next hour or so, Danny will help take people's minds off the more...
I can guarantee it's not an hour.
No, probably not. Well, without further ado, welcome to Switch of Play. Danny Wilson there. Thrilled to have you on, Danny. How are you?
Nearly as good as you, Mark. And looking at Micky, he's still fit enough to play again, him.
Yeah, you can't see me gut under the camera, Danny. I've had a heavy lockdown.
Are you keeping well though, Danny?
I am, thanks, Mark. Yeah, very well, thanks. Yeah, I think like everybody, we're having our days, aren't we, when you get a bit frustrated because of the lockdown and not so much of the last 24 hours as we're speaking now, been locked down again. So a bit frustrating, and particularly, we've got a young grandson as well. So we didn't see him over Christmas, and sons and daughters, because I had the COVID over Christmas.
Oh.
So we were on our own, really, my wife and I. So it's a bit frustrating, and then you get locked down straight after. So it's a bit of a.
How did you find that, Danny, with having the COVID? Because I spoke to a friend of mine today who was rushed into A&E and couldn't breathe and had a terrible time, where other people I've spoken to, just like my son's had it 6-7 days ago, and you wouldn't think it's not done anything to him at all. It's so.
Well, I've been very lucky, Micky. I presume I fall in that second category you just said. I was I had the biggest thing I couldn't get off the toilet. It's a nice thing to talk about, isn't it? But it was that, and then I was very, very, very drowsy and a bit short of breath. That's really still retained it, really. That's it may sound. I mean, walking upstairs and you're out of breath and thinking this is not right, but you've got to put it down to that. But thankfully, it's we've been very lucky. That's really all the symptoms I've had. And like you said, there's loads of people far worse off than ourselves, so we're very lucky in that respect.
Yeah. Oh, good.
In terms of your career then, Danny, these days, you've taken a step away from management by the sound of things. What do you do now for a living?
I'm virtually semi-retired, Mark. This is the frustration thing. I thought I'd have a little bit of a time off and play golf. Crikey, I've not played enough in March, properly since March. I do a little bit with the League Managers Association. And I do a little bit with a company down in London, which it's really down at my leisure, really. So there's no demands on me, that's for sure. And then when we could go to the games, I used to go watching the games all up and down the country, whoever I wanted, really, and just sit there without any pressure on. It was great. But I felt for the lads on the touchline looking down at them, but it's one of those things. I've done my time. I've had, I can't complain about it. I've had a good innings, and I think nearly 45 years in the game. And and with all due respect, I think my wife and my family deserved a bit of time. And I think in that respect, that's what we decided to do. We thought that we might just spend a bit more time together, be able to take a holiday now and again. That's unfortunately not worked out like we wanted it to do. But,
is that an agent? Is that an agent on the phone not offering you a job?
No, that's not. Sorry, I just turned it off. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. And that's where we are. That's what I'm doing now. But I can't wait till I get up to get back to the games again. And just go and watch all the games. And that you never fall into love with that side of it.
There's no job that's going to tempt you out of the semi-retirement, and there's no management job that would pique your interest.
Fucking loads. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. No, I'm being honest. No, I don't think so. No, I think I've done my time on the touchline. There's other areas that I would consider, but I think they're few and far between now. I think you got to sometimes lift your hat and say thanks very much.
Yeah, I know, Danny. I've spoken to Mark about this before, and when I left football and I started working in school, And I used to say what did you miss? And the thing for me was I miss seeing people. I miss going to games. I miss catching up with people. And you do miss that side of it, don't you? You miss just bumping into a friend that you maybe haven't seen for a couple of months and just catching up with someone at a game. Because I think it's part of your life, isn't it? It's part of what you've done for so long.
Well, it is. I mean, and like I say, I think we're all social animals, really, I think, in a lot of respects. And, I think from that point of view, that's what you do miss. I know in a lot of football, if you move around a bit, you tend to be passing ships in the night with your teammates and whatever, and possibly clubs away that managers move around nowadays, with the shortage of time that they're given. So, but I think really you do get good friendships as well. You get great bonds, and it's great just meeting up with people, and you're not seeing for ages and seeing what their take on life is in football now, or whatever it may be, or whatever they're doing, or even players that are still playing. Looking at their careers and how they're going on, and that's a good thing from my point of view. I still keep in touch with quite a lot of people, which is great. And particularly this time, we can't do anything else but this at the moment in time, which is handy really, because he's taught me how to work this thing. But it's great, it's great. Just pick the phone up or have a chat with somebody like this. It's fantastic.
I mean, you say there about all the years you've spent. Was it over 600 games as a player? You got 24 caps for Northern Ireland. You managed to go over 1,000 games as well. I mean, would that have? The game's been so good to you. Would you have ever thought that was the kind of career you could build when you were coming through the ranks in the 70s?
No, absolutely not. I think when I first, I'm assuming Micky will back me up on this. When you first sign your contract when you're a young boy at a professional football club, you think, well, now you've arrived. The world's here. But that's just when the hard work starts, And I think from that point of view, I think if you work hard I think you make your own luck sometimes. If you've got that commitment to what you want to do and don't play at it, I think it gets noticed. And I think that's why you get a bit of longevity in your playing side of it, particularly. On the management side of it, a lot of it's just luck. A lot it's down to results. It's down to the players you have around you. Is your recruitment good? If you can afford recruitment, that is at times. There's lots and lots of good managers out there that's in the second division, National League, second division, first division, who possibly won't ever get a chance, to go to the big ones. And they're doing a great job there with the resources they've got. And it's really tough, outside of the Premier League. I'm not saying the Premier League is easy, but it's really tough outside of there. And it's proper management. You don't go and your left back gets injured and you don't go and buy another one for 10 million quid. Your left back gets injured, you go and borrow somebody for 200 quid up the road, from, I don't know, a team that's on your level who wants to get him off the wages or something. It's very, very hard. And but it teaches you how to manage and how to manage properly, and it's not always thankful, it's not always a thankful job, but it does teach you the proper way to manage and try to manage the players, depending on the years. And then if you're going along and you're lucky enough to have a little bit of success, even if it's not particularly all about results, it's about maybe even bringing players through, maybe being able to coach players to come through and things like that. I think that gets noticed. And then if you're looking at a vacancy somewhere, you might be fortunate enough to slot in there. It's a lot of luck. It's luck along the way, but like we always say, it's results driven most time from a manager's point of view. And sadly, you've got a good right-hand man at you, and you're not getting a good results. His right-hand man loses his job as well. It's a tough nut, really. It's not always easy when you've got good people around you.
Yeah, I remember, Danny, you telling me when I was stepping into coaching, and I didn't probably realise at the time what you were telling us, but you said to me, look, Micky, the one thing I can guarantee you is you'll get sacked at some point. Yeah. And at the time I was like, I was like, no, I'll never get sacked. But then you realise that no matter whether you have one good season, 10 good seasons, you will get sacked at some point.
Well, you will, Mick. And I think really that was the type of advice I had, really. But it was really to make me aware that everybody has it, so it's not a personal thing. It's not something that you've failed at. Maybe there's lots of circumstances in every club that you get you don't have the time that's needed to produce winning teams, if you like. But I think the other side of it, I think it's not always the individual that's at fault. So I don't think if you take it personally, you'll very rarely come back into it again. If you can have a tough skin, if you like, a rhino skin, and get through it and say, you know what, I thought I did all right there, by the way. Not kidding yourself, but thinking, I didn't do that particularly well, but I did that well. We've brought that through, and look at that player now, and what we've done for the club, and we kept him in the league, and whatever it may be. And I think when it comes to things like that, I think that gun gets noticed. But I think the most important person in this scenario is yourself. You can't be too hard on yourself. You have got to pick yourself up again and go again, and have that belief that what you're doing is right, and what's around the corner is an opportunity for you again.
Yeah, Danny, just take you right back to when you were sort of growing up. One of the questions that someone asked on the Twitter was, who was your idol? Who was your footballing sort of? Who did you want to be when you're in the school ground?
Oh, easy. A lot of people will not remember him. Micky, you might not, but you won't, Mark. Well, you might do actually. He was one of the Liverpool greats. He was a player at Liverpool. I'll give you a little quiz question here. He was a player at Liverpool who played all his career and never got booked until the last game of his career at Liverpool. He'd never booked in his whole career. Who was that? We'll be your age. I won't. Ian Callaghan.
All right.
Little Ian Callaghan for Liverpool, and I think because I went to Liverpool a few times to watch him as a young lad, and when they had Roger Hunt and all these boys playing, and St John and all these. But Cally was I knew I was only going to be that size. I was going to be a dwarf like him. And I think, here we go. That's what chance, But I thought, well, if he can do it, I think I can do it. And I always used to love him playing. He was tidy. He was creative. He was very competitive. So it was an easy comparison to ask me about that one, because I used to love to watch him.
So was that your team growing up, Liverpool?
Yeah, they were. Yeah. They were about 30 minutes from where we lived.
Right.
I'm right on the cusp, really. I could have gone. Manchester's similar. Liverpool just slightly going away, but my brother-in-law was an Evertonian, and he went to watch Everton now and again. But I kept pestering about Liverpool, so he started to take me to Liverpool, and that's where I didn't really fall in love with them, but I followed them all the time, But they were a little bit too far away to go watch every week, and we couldn't afford to go every week anyway. I think once every couple of months would be massively a bonus from my point of view. But we used to go to the odd European games, and they're amazing, And European night in Anfield were fantastic. I went to, my first one was Dynamo Tbilisi, and the UEFA Cup was absolutely amazing night. And I think that starts wanting you to want to play professionally, not just go kick a ball around the street. You want to play in front of the cop, and I did. I got battered every time, but there you go. Never won at Liverpool, I don't think. But I played in front of him anyway.
Yeah, I was a sub there once with Middlesbrough, and I made sure in the warm-up I scored in both goals. So I was like, yeah, I've scored in both of those goals.
When you got into your playing career, Danny, you had plenty of highlights, didn't you? I think you got to a couple of finals. You won a cup. You scored some memorable goals. What are the particular standouts for you during your playing days?
It's difficult. People ask questions like this, all over really, Matt. And I think it's a difficult one to answer because I don't know how many clubs I've had, 7 or 8 playing clubs, something like that. And every club that I've played for, I've loved every minute of every club I've been with. With the players that I've been playing with, we've always formed a great bond, and the dressing rooms have been good. We weren't always the most fancied team, but we also upset a lot of teams along the way. Like Luton, for instance, we could never really cope with Man United, but we did, and we can. We finished 3rd in the league one year, in the Premier League. So I think in all things like that, they're unfancied teams that we've played for, but always been great times. Winning cups with, with Luton, nobody ever thought Luton would ever win a cup, particularly, not against Arsenal. Hold on a bit, that's not allowed. But we did on the day, and every dog has his day, it was just our day that day. And so, little things like that. I can remember playing for Bury, and Bury, I played them in front of 8,500 people at Bury, and that was in a reserve game against Liverpool, who had Tommy Smith, players like that playing in the reserves. That was a Central League game, and the average crowd for Bury at the time was about 3,000. And the midweek game on the Central League was the best league that was ever out. All the top players played in the reserves. And so I'm going there, my first game. I mean, what's going on here? Like, what the hell, I can't believe this. And it's only a reserve game. I was well pissed off I got picked for first team. 3,000, no lot of it, isn't it? But no, there's great highlights. And it doesn't have to be about winning things, Mark. Honestly, I look at it, and I also look at it similar with management. You know, it's not always about winning things. We can't all win things. But I've always been quite positive in the way that I made sure I enjoyed every minute of my time. And because I was very, very privileged to be able to play professional football, you know, when you look around of how many millions of kids would love to do it.
Yeah. Danny, I've always said, and I'm not just saying it because you're on the show tonight, but me personally, I took a lot from you as a manager. And I know when you first came in, I was unsure whether I was going to play for Hartlepool, but the way you manage people as people and not just footballers was a big eye-opener for me. And no matter who was in our squad at the time, I remember Gavin Stratton going to you, he was going, I'm going to have Danny today, I'm going to tell him this, that and the other, this, that and the other. And we were coming out and everyone was waiting for him to come out thinking there's going to be a fight in there. And he come out and he was like, yeah, everything's fine. And I was like, how can you go in that angry and come out that calm? But it was managing people, isn't it?
It is. I mean, listen, I've been there. I've been where Gavin is, you know, and I've not played games and when I thought I should be playing. And, you know, we've all got our opinions and we're not always right, you know, but and sometimes we are right, by the way. You know, Gav had a great case. You know, he didn't play many games really from my point of view, but, you know, you're taking yourself away from the person or the personality when you pick the team. You're picking the team for the team, you know, and it's hard to take sometimes if you're not in that starting 11 on the day. But your time will come again because the players that you have at your disposal in most cases, they're not mugs, they're professional football players, you know, and they're there for a reason because they've got a talent. But it's how you define that into the 11 that plays on any particular day. And I think, you know, with Gavin, he had a fiery temper like his dad. Don't worry about that. But Gavin, I got on very well with Gavin. Believe it or not, yeah. I know him, you know, quite well. And he had a case. He had a case, but at the time, you just think you do what's right for the team at the time. But it doesn't mean to say you have to fall out with anybody. You know? Yeah,
I remember doing exactly the same as Gavin, and I was like, I'm putting my case forward today. And I remember, and I spoke to you about this afterwards when I was coaching. And I know it's a tactic you use is like, so I'll come in and say, Gaffer, why am I not playing? And you'll turn around, well, Micky, you give me a couple of reasons why you're not playing. So I'll be like, well, my training's not been very good. My passing's been a bit off. Go away and work on them, son, and you'll be back in the team. But then you haven't said like a negative towards me. I've not gone away and said, oh, he says my passing's crap, or I can't do this, I can't do that. Yeah. And it's something where you come out of it and think, he still thinks I can play in the team because he's not said anything bad about me.
Well, the thing is as well, your self-criticism, again, will help you because you're identifying things in your game that you need to get better at. And I've not said anything.
To be fair, I had more than two. I had
Micky, you didn't, mate. You're a very consistent player, by the way, week in, week out. That's why you played. But what I'm saying is that in that respect, you know, it's like you ask somebody a question and they'll answer the question themselves and then wonder why you went in the first place. I thought of that. But when you're on your own and you're fuming and your mates are giving you a bit of that in your ear and getting going in some, you know, and when you actually go in and you actually analyse, you sit down rationally and you think about it, you think, well, you know what, I was crap the other day training, or you know what, I wasn't crap. No, I'm not having that. Whichever way you want to land on it, you know. And then that's back to the manager again to help you to understand why it is that he's picking this particular team at that particular time. But the one thing I've tried not to do ever is have a confrontation with players because I know I will need them, and I know that we'll play again. And if you lose them in those silly moments in an office when you both get your heads together and you're butting, he'll never get it back, you know. And he might need me to play games and put him in the team, and I might definitely need him to help the team, you know. So that's the reason why I did certain things like that, is because when you're at clubs like I just talked about there, we haven't got £10 million to go and buy another 5 players because I don't like one of them that's playing there. You know, you had to find a way to get the success and the team togetherness And I think that's one way that you did it. You kept everybody together, and you tried to make people feel part of what you're trying to do. Feel a bit special, I suppose, now and again. I mean, sometimes you have to fluff it up a bit, which is understandable. Some people have different egos than others, and some are maybe not quite as honest to themselves as other ones are. But there's a way to deal with them as well, like, you know.
You obviously gave quite a lot of thought to that approach, though, because you were quite into the psychological and the mental side of the game as well. But I remember, floating around as I do on the periphery of the squad at Hartlepool through the years. Very often, the players who were out of the team are the ones who are going, he's fucking useless, this guy. I don't know why he got the manager's job.
Yeah.
But honestly, without that, there's an example of a player saying to me, I'd run through a brick wall for Danny Wilson. He couldn't get anywhere near your starting 11, but he still somehow had a grasp over him. It's a bit of a talent that I guess.
Well, I don't know. I think you've got to look at the player that's doing that. I think that's a sign of a very good pro. Whoever that is, whoever's saying that to you, whoever has that attitude in training, that's the type of pro that you want at your football club. You don't want the one that's whinging all the time and throwing his toys out the pram every time it doesn't go his way or whatever, because it gets them worse and worse in a worse state of mind and a worse mental state. But it starts to piss your mates off as well. You get sick of hearing it. Oh, listen, what's wrong? Calm down. Particularly if the team's doing okay and you want to enjoy a bit of success or a few results that's going your way at that time. You've got to enjoy the wins. You can't. Football is a wonderful, wonderful game and certainly a fantastic lifestyle. Why worry? Why get upset about it? It's a privilege, but it's sometimes difficult to put that over to a younger pro in particular. But the one that you're talking about there, who has an attitude, that's all you need from a manager's point of view. That's all you want to see on the training ground every day. And
I guess, by the time you got to Hartlepool, there was 10 years behind you as a manager. You turned to management fairly early on, didn't you? At Barnsley, and it was a real success for you.
Again, it's just fortunate. I was in the right place at the right time, really, Mark. I think been at Sheffield Wednesday, and we'd had a good team there. And Viv, as you know Viv, and my mate, and Viv got asked to go to Barnsley as player manager. He went to talk to John Dennis, who was the chairman then, and John said, "Yeah, we want you to come." Blah blah blah. He said, "Well, I'll come if I can bring Danny." Now, in that respect, I just been offered a new contract stay at Sheffield Wednesday, and I thought, will I get a chance again to do this? I don't know. Sheffield Wednesday, I was 32 at the time, I think I was. And I thought, well, I'm not going to get a 10-year contract here. I'm not going to stay. So I thought, well, why not? I've nothing to lose. And we went in there, and then, things happened after Viv went on to Middlesbrough with Robbo, which he always said he was going to do. He never made any fact that if he got the opportunity to work with Robbo, he would.
Yeah, and he was still playing in the reserves ahead of me when he come to Middlesbrough. He used to just pick himself for the reserves. And honestly, he would. I don't know how old he was at the time, but he would stroll through reserve games, literally not even be out of breath, and I'd be sitting on the bench thinking, "How is he that good still playing in a reserve game?"
He was a good player. Well, he was a quality player, wasn't he? And he was a great character as well.
Oh, fantastic.
And in Micky, and he's not changed, by the way. I'll still see him, frequently apart from this lockdown. But I think from that day there, Viv decided to go and we'd done okay really. I was a player coach at the time, and I felt as fit as I've ever felt. I really did. I was 33 at the time. When Viv left, I think I was 34 when I got player manager's job, and I felt as fit then as I was 21. I really, but I couldn't manage everything all together. It was just too much of a workload. So I just consciously decided that enough's enough. I'm going to finish this season off, retire gracefully if I could, and then just concentrate on the managing side of it. Unfortunately, the owner, the chairman there, he wanted that continuity, like I said, and he said, "Would you take the job?" I said, "Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll have a go." And we were very lucky. It just went our way for a couple of seasons, which was great.
Danny, correct me if I'm wrong. Did you signed a couple of Middlesbrough players, didn't you? John Henry and Wilco, was that?
Yeah. Paul Wilkinson,
was that in the team that got you promoted?
Yeah. They were the final. We had Wilco first, Paul Wilkinson first, and because I obviously knowing Robbo and Viv as well, I said, "Come on, do us a favour. Let's have one of your strikers. Just tide us over." I said, "We can't afford anything. We'll give 2 bob, and a couple of packs of crisp if you, but we'll definitely give him you. Can you have them all up front?" and he did. They did us a favour. They gave us Wilco. We could afford Wilco. And it was going okay really, but we just needed that little bit of cleverness that we needed up top. Like we felt we had a good little team. We had a team that was unknown and unheard of with loads of players. Clint Marcel, you never heard of him. Like little Martin Bullock, nobody knew about him, but they could play, and they were quick and they were dynamic and they turned defences. They were great. But we needed that experience, and then Wilco came and he was great. And then I just thought, well, they've got promotion together at Middlesbrough, him and John Hendry, and he's not in the team. John's not in the team up at Middlesbrough. I said, well, come on, how much is going to cost us? So I managed to have a chat with the chairman who twisted his arm a bit and said, come on, look at this duo. What about a duo we have here? And they did, and it worked out perfectly. The pair of them, they helped us get promotion. I mean, you can't take away from everybody that, how they complemented each other and what their contributions were. But Neil Redfern got 28 goals that season from midfield. Incredible. John Hendry, it was incredible. John Hendry and Paul Wilkinson were just the icing on the cake for us. So take away how good the rest of the boys have been, but those 3 in particular were a massive, massive contribution to them, and the 2 strikers were great.
Yeah, I bet John was good in the dressing room because I think as a young pro at Middlesbrough, he was the first sort of senior pro that I saw in the dressing room that was he was non-stop. He was always doing something, making people laugh. And it was the first one where I thought, you know what, he is sort of the person you need in your dressing room on a day-to-day basis because he was great value. He was always doing something daft or winding people up or, do you know what I mean? He was just that type of character that was great to have around.
No, spot on, Mick. I mean, that was the other side of it as well. Not just did he want us as a player, I had to find out what type of character he was. So I said to David Robert, what's like? He said, oh, you've got to get him. He's absolutely hilarious. Get him in your dressing room. He says, if any of the players are a bit uptight, get him in there. And he says, you'll be playing like that. You'll be laughing when you're playing. And he was that. He settled everybody down. And particularly, the back end of the season when they start getting a little bit nervous and, they can see maybe a little bit of success coming. They tighten up a bit. No chance. He just carried on as normal. Like, he was brilliant.
I've got a couple of, I'll not tell both of them, but a couple of stories of John on the trips when you go away as a club. And I was a young pro. And one trip, I can't remember whether it was Portugal or somewhere, he offered Brian Robson, he said, I've heard all these stories about you, Gaffer, but I don't think they're true. Let's have a drink. And
my goodness.
Yeah. But 2 hours later, it was flat out.
It's true, don't worry, it's true.
And Robert was like, look like you still drive.
Oh, yeah. Don't worry about that. It is true. Don't worry about that. I promise you. You won't get in a battle with Robert like that one, I tell you. Right.
When you moved on from Barnsley, obviously the Sheffield Wednesday job, it was such a, there was such a lot of high profile players there at the time as well. What was that experience like? What do you take when you reflect on that now?
Well, you've got to remember as well, I was only 35 years old, very, very young. I had one season a bit, maybe 2 seasons as a manager, player manager, stroke manager. So I'm very wet behind the ears, but because things are going well, people take notice, and the results are going well and we've been all right. Went to the Premier League. We were always going to have a chance of coming back down again with Barnsley. We just didn't have the players. End of story. No matter how we dress it up, we couldn't compete in the Premier League. We weren't good enough. So it was inevitable as the season went on that was going to be happening. Although we made a good fist of it towards the end, we thought we might just sneak out of it. Anyway, but we didn't. And then I go there, and then they've got some big hitters there, your Di Canios, your Carbonis, Des Walkers, all these lads who were there, and it was a big challenge, really big challenge. But they had struggled the last couple of seasons as well, and they only really just pipped us. I think they finished about 5 points above us when we were relegated at Barnsley. And that was on the back of them beating us 1-0 or 2-1 at Hillsborough. and they can't get in the winner. And that put that gap between us, and it really lifted them out of the danger. But they were in danger virtually all the season, right to the death as well. So going in there was going to be a big challenge when I went in there anyway.
So was there still players there, Danny, who you played with? I take it that they're still there or not?
Not really, no. I mean, the young ones like Richie Humphreys and people like that, they were there, but they were young ones. I didn't play with them, but I knew them.
Right.
I knew quite a few of the boys that had come through the ranks who were still hovering around the first team or in the first team or whatever. Yeah, but generally no. Which from my point of view was quite a blessing, really. Because it's very difficult to go in a dressing room that you've played with and then try and manage it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't say you can't do it, but it's a problem you don't really want. It's really, you'd rather not have it than have it, because it's difficult to say, Micky, all right, Micky, coming for a pint, mate. Micky, call me boss.
Yeah.
Well, hold on a bit.
Yeah.
I don't see it. But it is difficult. You'd rather not have it than have it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard so many podcasts talking about Di Canio as a manager and stuff like that, and he just sounds wild. What was he like to manage as a player? Was he just ridiculous every day, or was it something new every day?
Oh, there's something new every day. Oh my goodness! Like I've got 1,001 stories. I wish I could write a book. I don't write it, but but honestly, he was from being absolutely ridiculous to being sublime. He could flick on and off like that as a personality and as a player. But what a player! I'll tell you a nice story. When I got the job, when I just got the job, Ron Atkinson was the manager before me. So I said to Ron, and Ron did well, for Wednesday when I was there. I said, Ron, I've been asked to go to Sheffield Wednesday. What do you think? He says, Dan, take it. I said, well, he says, I'll tell you why I take it. He said, the crowd know you. The crowd like you. You've been successful with them. He says, you know all the staff. He says, the coaching staff. He said, the fans would be great. He says, and they've got some good players. He says, just take it. Right, okay, so I take it. So we go the first day of pre-season. Paolo doesn't turn up. Fucking swell. Anyway, so second day, don't you? So we get on the phone to him. I say, Paolo, where are you? Oh, mister. He says, Big Ron, he say I could have 2 extra weeks off. I went, what? He says, Big Ron, he says I could have 2 extra weeks off. I said, okay. And I said, I'm thinking to myself, if I phone Ron up and Ron says, no, I didn't, I'm in an argument straight away. Who do I believe? Do I believe Ron? Do I believe him? Ron could wind me up and say, I never said anything. So I thought it's not worth it. So the third week of training, we're down at Bisham Abbey, which is the old FA headquarters, really, or where they used to do the training. And so we're giving directions and everything to come there and meet us on Monday morning. So comes in, morning, mister. That's what they call the managers. Morning, mister. Morning, Paolo. Nice to meet you. Right, Paolo, you're going in that group there. The rest of the group are going to come on here. You're going to go with the fitness coach. No, I don't go with any fitness coach. I went, no, Paolo, you've not trained for 2 weeks. No, I'm as fitter than any person here. I'm a fit man. I have no personal training. I do everything myself. I don't need him. I went, Paolo, we're doing 800s, the 400 meter runs, 200s, 100s, 50s, 25, back up to 800s. On a track, and the lads are flying, and we've got some fit boys at the club at the time. Anyway, so I said, no, I couldn't. So I said, right, you're going in, put him in the fastest group. Hey, put him in the fastest group. Get him in there. They got Carlton Palmer, whoever it was. I can't remember it was in there now. Who could run? So he gets in there, and we set off, and he's going 800s, 400, all the way back to top again. Been going for about 3/4 an hour. But I said, well done, boy, brilliant. He won every fucking race bar one. Honest to God, he won every race bar one. Brilliant. He was such a fit boy. And I remember he'd tell you as well, but he was fit. Good player.
I remember speaking to Richie about it, and Richie was saying he was just like, he sort of remembers looking at him and thinking, he just, the way he looks after himself and everything, he's a little bit out there as a person.
Oh, yeah.
But just... everything about him, he's like a professional, like to the end sort of thing.
Oh, he was unbelievable. Yeah, I mean, you could never question his fitness when he played. It was, he was a clever player, and you'd look at sometimes and think, is he walking around? he's just clever on the pitch. He knows where the spaces are. He knows to pick the space up. He's not going to start chasing fullbacks up and down the line or centre forwards. You know, he will do to a certain degree, but then he'll just come on. Somebody else is going to pick this pattern up here now. But when you get the ball, look where I am, type of thing. Yeah. And he was very clever, very intellectual player. Yeah.
What was he like off the pitch, Danny? Because I went into Sunderland when he was manager of Sunderland. I went with John Hughes and we spent a day. We watched training in the morning with him and Fabrizio. And then on the afternoon, he walked us around every part of the training ground. Yeah. He grabbed hold of some youth team players. He was sprinting with them and he was telling us about this run that he'd seen some centre forward do. And I came home and I was shattered. I couldn't keep up with the tempo of him.
Was he like
that when as
very
a player?
Intense. Oh, I love football. He absolutely lived and breathed football. He was so intense in everything he did. And even when I speak to people about him as a manager as well, you know, when it's Swindon and then up at Sunderland, exactly the same. You know, he expected everybody to be like him, to live and breathe football every second of the day. And if he didn't, he'd be thinking, you know, why not? What's wrong with you? Like, you know, and if you put a bit of weight on, he'd say, hey, fatty, look at you. Like, you know, he wouldn't mess around. He'd tell you, you know, you can't run, you're too fat. Go and get sorted out. Get some what do you call it? Fitness food and whatever it may be. Also, he would really, really, really go to town. Very, very professional. Yeah. Yeah.
You were the manager that did. I think I'm right in saying I'm pretty sure that when he pushed the referee over, you were the manager then, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
What was that like, and what
Mr. Alcock.
Mr. Alcock, it was, yeah.
It was, yeah. Oh my good grief! I've never seen somebody go down. Man, I have done nowadays in the Premier League. I've seen him go down for less than that. But, it was pathetic at the time. Yeah, I mean, he'd done. He hadn't. They were kicking. He was playing Arsenal, and they were kicking lumps out of him. You know, and this particular time it was the left back Nigel Winterburn, and he'd had a little peck at him, and so he just turned back on him, and he was giving the referee a bit of something, and the referee gave it, and he just pushed him away. When you see it, you can see it now. He never touched him. He went down in about 3 stages, didn't he? But that unfortunately was the end of him for Sheffield Wednesday. You know, it was he was sold after that. My chairman at the time said nobody else is going to buy him. I've had a word from every Premiership chairman that they're not going to touch him with what he's done. It was worth about £6 million on the open market, I suppose, then, and he went to West Ham for £1.5 million.
And you might be able to help us. Richie's got a still of that actual incident where he's in amongst it, and he always tells me he was going there to help Paul out, but it looks like he's running away the other way to me.
Now, the thing I remember most of everything is where it went like that to go to Winterburn.
Oh, Winterburn.
Yeah.
And I think that's a classic bit, that one. But thankfully, you know, thankfully he got back into the English game, because what he did at West Ham and how he entertained the fans and the goals he scored were absolutely amazing. You know, it'd have been a far worse place without somebody like Dick and his personality as well. You know, he's got a great character about him.
Yeah. So did you try and keep him, Danny, or was there no way you could keep him after that?
He got a 10-game ban, something like that, I think it was. But he didn't want to come back from Italy. He just said, I'm not coming back.
Did you once said to me, I think he was more or less on a flight to Italy by the time the game finished, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah, he was away. Straight away. But in fairness to him, our chairman had said to him, get him back into Italy, tell him to go home, to get him out of the whole furore, which we knew was going to kick off, you know. And unfortunately, we were there. we as a staff had to be there to face the music. Well, we didn't know what could we do, you know. But at the same time, it was a bit of a skullduggery where we didn't get the proper finance for him for what that quality of player he was. When you get £1 million for a player of that, come on, hold on a bit, you know, he was worth a fortune. And £6 million at the time was a lot of money.
And the fallout from that, Danny, I know what it would have been like in a dressing room if you were one of the other players. You would have gone in there, you would have been probably laughing about it in training. How did you manage the fallout from him?
Well, it went on for so long, I just left it upstairs. I said, listen, you've caused this problem. All I was doing was supporting him. You've caused a problem now. You've got to live with this now. You've sent him over there. He's going to get a 10-game ban. It's how you deal with this side of it now. Do you open him round and say he's made a mistake and bring him back into the fold and let everybody know you're trying to do that? And then the other side of it said, well, he doesn't want to come back. There's nothing we can do. And to a certain degree, we did that at the end. but we should have been doing that straight away, you know, in that respect. But again, like I say, if I was another 10 years older, I possibly would have dealt with it better, you know. But being a young one there and a time, I'd never seen anything like that before. And then the stuff that went on after it, you know, it blew the Barnsley Chronicle out the water, like, you know, from News of the World to every daily newspaper. Sundays were loving it, and when he only had to deal with the Sheffield Star or something like that, you know, it was tough at the time. It was relentless. It never stopped.
Without wanting to rush you through your managerial career, I am keen to get towards the Hartlepool appointment.
Yeah, carry on.
And obviously, I think you were MK Dons manager, weren't you? That as Hartlepool were being relegated, MK Dons were coming down alongside, and you got the opportunity then to come into Hartlepool. How did it come about? It seemed to be done fairly quickly.
It was done quickly. In fact, very quickly. Chris Turner phoned me. Chris gave me a ring and just said, "Listen, you know, we know that you've gone there. It's been tough down there," which was another tough gig. You know, they were trying to get some sort of some sort of credibility for moving AFC Wimbledon, if you like, to MK Dons, basically. And so there's a lot of furore that's surrounding the football club and Pete Wilkerman, who was the owner. And so that was a tough one anyway. He said, "Well, you know, we didn't think it was fair what happened to you, and we'd like to come up here and have a chat with us." So I said, "Yeah, no, absolutely no problem at all." And that's what happened. That's how it started. When a quick chat with, I think it was Chris and Ken and another director. I can't think of the director.
Russ,
but there's another director as well. I can't think of the other.
Ian Prescott.
Yes, Ian Prescott. That's it. Yeah, Scottish guy.
Ian McRae. Sorry, Ian McRae.
Oh, Ian McRae. That's right. The Scottish guy. Yeah.
So obviously coming into Hartlepool and what are your memories from the first few months of Hartlepool? Because it didn't immediately click into gear, did it really?
Well, it did. It just clicked into gear straight away and flipping Holland for the pre-season. I don't make it.
I've got a WhatsApp group, Danny, with all Tinks and Trig and Humps and Bracker and all them lot. And a few of the questions were about the Holland trip.
I'm sure it was. Well, we decided. I'll cut it short. We decided that, you know, I think we should go away. And I knew they went to Holland every year. They went on that on the liner, didn't they? And they go every year. Blah blah blah. I think we should go. Oh yeah, I think it's a great idea. Let's all get together, get to know me. I'll get to know the lads there. We'll have one night where we can all go out and have a few drinks. And hey, no problem. Yeah, I can handle all that. No problem. Next time I turn around, I've seen flipping Tinks on top of a minibus, dancing on top of a minibus. Oh my good grief! We got the training next morning, and I can remember Tinks and Trigger and Trig absolutely couldn't bumping into each other.
Yeah, they couldn't stand up because Trig had been doing his fast feet on the dance floor and took his shoes off and cut his feet open.
That's right.
I remember being in the toilet with him trying to wash glass out of his feet, and obviously he'd had a few drinks, so he didn't want us to. And the next day I looked over and I'm thinking these two could be in trouble with a gaffer here because James is trying to pull glass out of Trig's foot.
Yeah, I remember on the
Tinks and Trigger jumping on James, and probably James had probably had a couple of beers as well. So I was thinking, this isn't a good start for them.
Listen, buddy, it was fine. I mean, I think I had to pull him in. Of course I did. You know, because you can't just let players just get away with it. You've got to say, you know, come on, I want to see you too. I mean, you read the riot act to a certain degree, but really understand we were there for that, not for that reason, but for that reason to have a get together, a little drink and see what happened. But they just tipped it over the edge too far in that respect. And then when you get glass in your feet and that, you know.
Is that players testing a new manager?
Is that what?
Players testing a new manager. Is that?
You better ask the players that.
It's just them two. It could have been an old manager or a new manager. Anyone? It
didn't matter. Yeah.
It's just the way. Danny, there was a question I was going to ask you, and I wouldn't have asked you at the time. But you know, when you come into a club, and obviously your teams had played against the Hartlepool teams seasons before that.
Yeah.
Did the expectations of the level where we were at surprise you, or did you think sort of we were worse than what you were expecting, or do you know, as a group?
No, I think quite the opposite, really. I mean, don't forget, mate, even though it was only a week or so before I left MK Dons and then gone to you. I'd done a lot of homework on you as a collective team anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and whatever. And from that perspective, even more so when I thought I might be getting interviewed. So that's when you do your homework, you do due diligence, you talk to people, you blah, blah, blah. You have a chat with people that know the club. And that's what I did. And so I wasn't going into it, you know, with my eyes closed. I had an idea of the players that were there, some quality players, by the way, some players who maybe needed a move on, maybe needed, you know, a change, which I thought, you know, if I want to play in a certain manner, would they be good enough to sit on the bench or be patient enough to sit on the bench for me? No. Well, I think I owe it to them to tell them that and move them on and let them do this, that, and the other, which is what we did. But I think you don't preempt how good people are until the season starts. I think it's foolish. I think if you think on paper this is a great team or this is a crap team, it'll end up being the opposite, and it'll surprise you one way or the other. And I think you've got to go in with a fairly open mind, which I did, and I have done all my managers' jobs. And irrespective of the level that you play at as a manager when you played, it's wrong to try and compare them with what you've been playing with or people around you they've been playing with. I think that's a recipe for disaster. But you've got to go in there with an open mind and try and get the best out of those individuals, and then collectively as you can, you know, with whatever tactics you can find to help you.
In the first 2 or 3 months of the season, because there was probably pressure and expectation on us to go back up, wasn't there? You know.
Yeah.
The first 2 or 3 months were a bit of a struggle, weren't they? We couldn't get the consistency of results. We were getting a result here and then it was tailing off again, and we couldn't build up that consistency until the November. It must have been a bit frustrating.
Well, you've got to remember as well, Mark, and Micky will understand this, what I'm going to say as well, that there's no consistency in the team selection either. Because I'm still tinkling around with the team.
Yeah.
You know, we went in pre-season, we went to Holland, and if you remember pre-season, we went. We didn't get beaten in pre-season. There's only one team beat us, Leeds. Leeds were the only team that season who beat us in pre-season. We had quite a good pre-season. I think we drew both games in Holland or something like that. Then we had a couple of wins, and then I think it was Leeds. I'm sure it's Leeds, Sunderland. No, Leeds came to Victoria Park and they beat us 2-1. So we had a good start. Then we go the first game of the season, we get beat at home, and you think, no, have I picked the right team? Has that team in the pre-season been, you know, challenged by the type of competition that's going to be ready for us in League One when we set ourselves up? I don't know. Anyway, so it was like win one, lose one, draw one type of thing. It was, and I'm still moving positions around, if you remember. But I think once you start to settle that down, particularly in a team that how can I say that isn't a massive squad. If you can settle it down, I think it starts to bond together. And most of the lads knew each other anyway. And it was only a matter of time before that, you know, that round peg went into that round hole, and, you know, and et cetera, et cetera. You know, but before that, you know, I'm still thinking, I think he might play somewhere else. He might be a good player there. I don't know. Let's have a look at him there. Let's look at him there. I mean, the prime example of that really is when I let Richie go on loan, Richie Humphries.
Yeah.
And I mean, I know he's a crowd favourite, but it's a tough decision. And I thought, you know what? I knew what Richie could do at Sheffield Wednesday. I knew what type of player he was, what type of attitude, and what a great pro he was. I didn't think he was being challenged enough. And I thought, you know, it's a bit easy. He needs to refresh himself. And I think the biggest thing was for me to say to him, Richie, you're going on loan to Port Vale. And what? Type of thing. And I thought, you know what? It's just my bit. Anyway, I don't know how many games. He had 6.5 games, Port Vale. Come back in the team, never missed a game. But he was rejuvenated when he came back in. And
I think that had an effect on the dressing room as well, Danny. I think people were like, fucking hell. If Richie can go, no one's safe here. And it was.
You knew that would happen though, Danny. You knew that reaction.
Exactly right. Well, I knew Richie anyway, like I say, and I knew that he was a crowd favourite. I knew the punters are bigger than Eric. There's no doubt about it. You know, if we don't win the games and he's not playing, there's only one person going to get it, and that's me. But you have to be prepared to do that sometimes. You know, you've got to make a tough decision for the bigger picture, and more important. I keep saying before, it's for the team. But I knew that we had a player in Richie, but it depended how we came back. And Port Vale wanted him for to end the season. And I said, you've got no chance, absolutely no chance. He's coming back. I hope it's going to have the effect that I wanted to have. And I don't think Richie missed many games after. I think he played nearly every game in a different position, but he played in the team. And I think it's a testament to going back to good pros. That's what good pros do. They come back and do that, And so I think in that respect, the going back to the inconsistencies at the start of the season, that's possibly down to me as well. For tinkering too much or not having the right players in the right positions. But you learn quickly.
The day that obviously, and every year when it comes around in the calendar, even though I'm not a Hartlepool anymore, I still will think about it. The Accrington game.
Oh my good grief! I remember it like it was yesterday.
Did you get the sense? Did both of you get the sense that the way that everything unfolded that day, that it was going to be a turning point?
I remember before the game, and I don't know whether we got there early, Danny, and I remember you going round just casually having a chat to people about how many goals had scored, and it was just really sort of laid back, like, how many goals and got them in? I was like 3, and people were laughing, and before the game was really, and I know I've got 3 or 4 people asking what did Danny say in the dressing room at half time, and I'll obviously let Danny speak about that. But for me personally, there was no sense even when we won that game that it was going to be a change or anything different, and maybe winning another game and then losing the game. But Danny, you can explain what you said.
Well, I remember it very well. I mean, I remember it because it was a really, really poxy day. It was pouring down the rain. Yeah. I can remember going in the dressing room, and one of the beds that were in the dressing room was soaked because the rain was coming through the ceiling. To move the beds out of the way and this, that, and with all due respect, it's nothing like that now. But it was a right doss house, and the dressing rooms that we were in was absolutely shocking. And I think that in itself, from where I was, that was building up inside of me. But I tried not to say it to anybody. But half time it had to come out, and I'm thinking, if you think you're good enough, half of you lot can't even get into this team. I said, and look at this shit all here. I said, and you think you've got it hard where you are on all the facilities you've got and everything about it. And I remember going bananas at them. We're 1-0 down at half time. And from being 1-0 down and playing like we did to winning 2-1 and playing like we did, that was a big, big, big plus for me. Because I knew they thought deep down that, or the players had thought themselves, because I can't change it from touchline, the players themselves thought they're selling ourselves short here. And they started to play to a level where they could play at. And once they got to that level, that was a standard that they set. And that was a determination they got themselves back into the game that's going to be needed for the rest of the season if they're going to do anything. And, we know what's history from there because we went on a 20-odd game unbeaten run, didn't we?
Yeah, I remember that game. I came on either at half-time or into the second half. I think it was for Daz, and it was freezing. I remember how cold it was coming on. Yeah. And we were in the lead, and I went to head a ball back to the keeper, and I misjudged it, and I went out for a corner. I just remember looking over at the bench thinking, please do not let this leader go because I'm going to get it right in the net. But it was just, I don't know, it was like you said, I think it was a realisation. It was the players like, we've got to pick this up here or we will end up somewhere like Accrington and be in a dress room like this next season.
Yeah, exactly. And it's got no reflection on Accrington. But we were Hartlepool United at the time. Hartlepool United were a good side, a good setup, and they had all the facilities, like I said before. They were run properly, by Ken in one respect. Whether it was unorthodox is another matter. We'll talk about that, I'm sure. But it was different. It was different. But what it was solid, and they looked after the players to a certain degree. And then Accrington were living on, from one week to the next. They had players coming out of amateur teams, and we were struggling to get on top of them, and that's what frustrated me more than anything. But more importantly, I think it frustrated the players eventually, and said, you know what, we've got to do something here. We can't have the embarrassment of this happening to us, be ridiculed, because if that would have happened at that day, the season could have gone quite the opposite to what it did. And so it was a moment of when you look back of a season changing game, if you like, because like I say, after that lads were brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Just to underline how brilliant they were. I mean, 23 games unbeaten, 19 of them were wins.
Yeah.
It's the best results in the club's history. I read somewhere this week it's one of the best runs of results in the history of the Football League. You know, that's how good it was.
Straight wins without conceding a goal.
We did 10 or 11 games, didn't we, without conceding?
We went eight wins, straight wins, and I think 10 without conceding.
And I can tell you where we conceded, even with my memory, Shrewsbury away.
Shrewsbury away, yeah.
Was it? Yeah, I can't remember.
I'll tell you why I remember, Danny, because I remember I had probably the worst first 45 minutes of my career. The pitch was full of sand. Every time I tried to kick it, it went out of play or went to one of their players. I remember at one point in the first half, flicking it up and trying to volley it just to get some distance on it.
And but it can't have been that bad, Micky, because I didn't remember you being that bad.
Well, at half time, at half time, I remember coming to see you and say, Gaffer, just take me off. I'm more than happy for you to take us off. And you were like, no, I'm not taking you off. You're staying on. That, yeah, and you were like, no, you're staying on. And I remember we win 1-0. I think we conceded in the game against Shrewsbury. But it's amazing what sticks in your memory. All them happy times and all that. Remember is a shitty 45 minutes at Shrewsbury.
It was brilliant.
What was the run built? I mean, obviously confidence and good players, but just extraordinary. What was it built on? What was the key to that success, do you think?
Well, it's like everything. Yeah, I've touched on what I said before, Mark. I think it's consistency, and the team virtually played together. But every week the team very rarely didn't change a great deal unless it had to. There wasn't many times that I just swapped somebody to play for the hell of it because you were playing against somebody else. I think they grew in confidence together. They got an understanding as a team there. They got understanding of the positions, what was wanted, what was needed. And I think that's that's all they want. If somebody came into the team because of an injury or suspension, they knew exactly what was expected of them, and they had to come and play. And they knew what the mate wanted and what the person behind him wanted, what the person in front of him needed. I think it was just that. I think it was just consistency in the personnel and certainly consistency in the players' performances. Yeah.
What was it like? From your memories, Micky, that run? It was just being part of it. And
yeah, I think it's you're just so full of confidence when you're going out onto the pitch in your formation, your teammates, the manager, and even in the warm up and everything. You just think you're never going to lose. And especially the run when we weren't conceding. I remember we used to do little drills on a Friday, little heading drills, and you're just topping things up all the time. But you've got this confidence that doesn't matter what happens in a game. Even if we went 2 or 3-0 down in that run, you would think that's not a problem. We'll win this game. And it's having. I've been watching that Mourinho thing when he's at Spurs, and that's what he says a lot of the time. Have that belief, have that confidence that no matter what happens in a game, that your team will win that game. And I think we had that. And I think it was just like Danny said. Everyone knew the role. Everyone knew positions and formations and the style that we were playing, and we're comfortable with that.
Yeah. It was. I agree with you. I totally agree with you. And when it comes to that, as you both know, my job becomes really easy. My job's very easy. Yes, you've just got to keep chipping him up and say, I think your standards going a bit. Come on, it's easy. Once a players get that belief in themselves, a manager's job and a coach's job is so much easier. That inconsistency is where you have a problem, where you're trying to get the formula right in this and the other. Once you will you ever have it right? I don't think you'll ever have it right, but you'll get it nearly right most of the time. It's so satisfying. And then it's so satisfying to see the 11 players, 13 players, whatever it may be, going on the pitch and performing like they do, knowing that all the work they've done during the week is taken on board and they're trying to put it onto the pitch. And even if it doesn't come off, they're trying to do what you've asked them to do. It's really satisfying from coaches.
I mean, Simmerula knowing like the training ground at that time, it was just like so lively, so bubbly that it was a point where you didn't want to leave the training ground because you were having so much fun training and doing whatever after. And it was a case of, we'll stay, we'll have another cup of coffee, because you just want to be with that group of people that you're comfortable with and you're enjoying that bit of success with.
Well, years ago, I can remember Liverpool in the 80s and what have you. I used to know one or two of the boys there. I got to know them through a lad who I played with Bury with, a lad called Keith Kennedy, his brother Alan Kennedy. Used to tell us all about it. Terry McDermott was from an area near for me. And he used to tell me what the training used to be. And all they used to do, particularly in the winter time, they make sure they're polo neck jumpers on, big, thick polo neck, like something you get for Christmas. And they'll all have one. And then just walk around on a five-a-side and then go and whack somebody. They go for a pint on a Wednesday, Thursday, get sloshed together, and then go and whack everybody who came in front of them on the weekends. And that's all they did. And they were just, because they were so belief that they were never going to get beat. And it didn't matter what they did in training. Whoever the manager was, they just say, right, you're playing. Oh, I'm in the team. That'll do for me. I'm staying in this team. And that's all it was. They didn't want to be out of the team, so they played out their skin every week.
And I think sometimes little things like, I remember Danny used to say to us, make sure on Monday morning you're sitting in your front room, in your front window in your house. And we were like, hey, what's he on about? But then you realise that if you won, you want people to see, you want people to look in your house and go, yeah, do you know what I mean? You don't want to be hiding out the back.
No, you're just little things in the back window with curtains shut when you get beat, don't you?
Little things like that. It's just things like, do you know what, on Monday, you want the gaffer to say that again. And then if you've got to choose a game, you want to keep saying it. And little things like that from the manager will spur players on. And I remember thinking at the time, I want that feeling of the manager saying, lads, we're in the front room again on Monday.
Right. Yeah, of course. It's right, Mick. No, it's a silly thing to say, but it's poignant. It's got,
it stays with you as well, though, Danny. It stays with you for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? You want people to think you're successful, and you want people to see that.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, it's great.
That sticks with me. What sticks with me about that season and the turnaround. I've obviously worked with quite a number of managers at Hartlepool and at Barron now, and you see the difference a result will make to a manager's mood and the way they act. But it always stands out in my head that you were no different when we were sort of struggling for that consistency in September and October than you were in January when we were 15, 16, 17 games unbeaten. Was that just experience? How did you manage to stay humble, I suppose, on a level like that?
I'm going back to what I said before. Like, if you got belief, you'll just keep going through. If you got belief in what you're doing and you believe in the players that you're trying to coach, trying to help and trying to teach, if you got that belief, why are you worried? There's no need worried. If you worry straight away, the players will pick up on it like that. If you're being dishonest with them, they know straight away. If you're trying to fanny them, they know straight away. So just be what you are. Just be what you are. I don't go over the top on anything. I don't get too down on anything. But that's been me out when I played as well. Like, I'm not one of these really animated type of person. And I think if you see a manager on the touchline when you're getting beat, useless. You go, oh my goodness, And I think that puts you on edge as a player. You're looking over the touchline. What's your manager like? If your manager's calm, I think you can. I think it's my opinion. Not everybody's like me. I mean, everybody's got the other side of their opinion. So that busts them up, that makes them kick themselves up their arse, like, because they're not playing, because the manager's going mad. I generally believe it calms them down and keeps them focused on the job that they've got to do while they're playing.
Well, we had the exact opposite with Coops. Coops, as you both know, would go absolutely ballistic on the touchline, and he'd be screaming. But it got to the point where you think, I know what you're saying, Gaffer. You know what I mean? You don't need to keep screaming on, because I can't understand what you're saying half the time. I'm on the other side of the pitch. You know he's getting angry about something, but it almost loses its effect, doesn't it? That if you... But then on the other side, I know the fans love Neil for that. I know the fans love that sort of, he's showing a lot of passion. Yeah. But it's what effect is it having on the team? That's what you've got to think.
And again, that's the most important, Mick, for me. It's always has been. I'm not there to please the fans. The results will please the fans, and the performances will pacify the fans. My antics on the touchline won't if we're losing games, no matter what I do. So it's ultimately they're not really looking at me, looking at the team and how they're performing, but more can we win. And then afterwards, if I'm jumping everywhere, that's great. If I'm not, that's great. It's what the lads are performing on the pitch is the most important thing.
What you did do, Danny, as well to affect things was bring in players who complemented the quality that was already there. The likes of Andy Monkhouse, who came in and just couldn't. Yeah. I don't think we conceded a goal for the first 11 games he played, and he won all of them or something like that.
Yeah, and he'll tell everyone that was down to him.
He will. And then Richard Barker as well, such a key signing at the New Year time. Those two in particular just absolutely galvanised the squad, didn't it?
Well, Gaffy, can you remember? I remember the Barks one. We played Mansfield, didn't we? And I remember going into to see the referee, and Barks was captain of Mansfield. and someone had told us beforehand he was going to be signing for us like in the next couple of days, and we had this really uncomfortable sort of I know what's happening, he knows what's happening, everyone knew but you couldn't mention it, and then when he played, I was thinking, well, he's not going to be trying today, but like Richie would do. Richie tried his balls off and was desperate to score, but it was such a strange situation.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, again, like knowing Richie Humphries and knowing Richie Barker as well, like, and knowing what we wanted at the time, or what I thought the team needed. John Daly had come in, and John had scored 9 goals before he went in, but he gets a good move to Dundee United, was it? Dundee, which was a lot of money for the club as well. So I know that's ongoing, and I'm thinking, well, they're going to need a replacement. Who do I know for free who'll do us a job? And I thought, I just kept going back to Richie, and Richie came in, and I think he scored 9 goals again. Correct me if I'm wrong. And he scored 9 goals between then and the season, league goals. And although it doesn't sound a great deal, that's if over a season, 20 goals over a season if he has a full season, near enough. And I think with Richie, but he offered us more than that. He offered us that leadership that we needed up the top. He's strong, he all the bit link play. He's never going to be the quickest, but he was powerful. He let people run around him, in that. And I think it was instrumental in a lot of things that we did. Richie was. I thought he was absolutely brilliant from our point of view when he came in. And I think 1 or 2 of the lads who came in contributed. Not always in the starting lineup, but offered something as the game went on, or an injury here or an injury there. Like I remember, Ali Gibb.
Yeah.
Remember Ali Gibb?
Yep.
And Ali came Bristol Rovers, I think it was, where he came from. And I think Ali but he was that type of lad as well. Never moaned. He went in the team and he come all the way up from Bristol. He never moaned. Just got on with it. Just got on with it. If I'm playing, I'm playing. If I'm not, I'll try and get in the team, or I'll come off the bench and I'll make an impact. And I love that type of thing. And not that you want people to be satisfied by not playing, but there's also got to be an understanding as to why they're not playing. And he had that. And I liked Ali a lot. And he didn't play. He didn't play. 50 games or so. I think I don't know, but he did play 20 games or something like that. But I could have said in every one of the games, I will guarantee you now, if I watch it again, he'd get everything for whatever time he was on that pitch.
Yeah. But again, with Ali and Barks, real good characters.
Yeah.
Sort of intelligent people as well. They brought a calmness to it, and like you said, they didn't ever complain. Monk's probably made up for complaining for both of them at the time, and
for all the team.
But they just brought that sort of reassurance to the lads who were already there. That do you know what? These are good players coming in. We've lost John, but we're bringing a good player in that we knew could score goals, but we knew was a good character as well. We had Richie telling us about him, and obviously you speak to other people, and just that sort of reassurance of what they were going to be like coming into the dressing room helped us as well.
Well, and Monks as well. I mean, you don't overlook Monks and what contribution he had. From the position that he played. And how he contributed to assists and goals he scored. He was fantastic. We laugh about him having a moan up. He was always a moan anyway. But he'd moan as soon as he walked through the door. But
he would.
I didn't mind that at all. It was a light-hearted moan. It was nothing really, anything that you worry about, is it? But again, with Monks, he was fantastic when he came.
But he brought a different dimension to the team as well, though, didn't he? With, as you say, he could score from that. He could set, but he was a different type of player than what we had in that wide position. So it was those signings definitely helped us, I think, push on and get promoted that season.
Yeah, it did. No doubt about it.
You mentioned how bubbly the training ground was, Micky, and obviously we were winning games, so it probably wasn't was there any of them that were tricky customers to manage, Danny, or was there any of them that were more lively than others that you had to keep an eye on?
No, I don't. Thinking back then, I can't remember. I mean, the boys might know that I didn't ever bust up with anybody. I don't think I ever did.
I can't remember. I remember you sent Trig on loan for 6 months, which we didn't think was long enough for. It should have been at least 18.
I mean, even with Trig when he went there, he was brilliant. As you said, listen, he just wanted to play games. He knew himself he wasn't going to be in the team. And I said, go and get yourself some games if you want some. That's no problem. Come back if you can't get anything. Come back. And he ended up going to Rochdale, I think.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
and did well for him. in that respect. So, it was great from that point of view that, you're not just discarding people, and saying, you're not wanted. You're always wanted, but you need to play games at your age.
Yeah, and I think what we spoke about before, Mark, is Danny's ability to make people feel wanted, even like if you're not in the team. Yeah. That the discussions you would have with the players, Danny would make. I remember early on, I think it was either pre-season or the start of the season, I wasn't in the team, and I thought, I went home and I thought to myself, look, it's not fair on a new manager to have a captain that's not playing. So I remember going to see Danny at Castle and saying, look, Danny, if I'm not going to play, I don't want to be captain because I don't think it's fair on you and I don't think it's fair on the team. And he just, I remember he turned around, blunt as anything, went, you're the captain, so you'll still be staying the captain. And I walked away. I wasn't in the team. I wasn't in the team for quite a while, but I felt $1 million because I wanted someone to reassure me that I was wanted basically. And that was my way of trying to find out if I was. And Danny saying that again just made me feel great. And I was like, right, crack on. And if when I get my chance, I'll play. And I think that just little things like that kept people happy.
But I think everything as well, Mick, and you'll respect what I'm trying to put this now, is that we all need a challenge. If you go through life and you're just ambling along and, what are you going to do? If you've got somebody chasing you, if you've got someone with a gun up your ass, you're going to run fast, aren't you? And I didn't think I could run that fast. You need that challenge, and sometimes it's somebody breathing down your neck as another player in your position or whatever it may be. If he's breathing down your neck, you're going to rise to the challenge. The good players rise to the challenge, and that's what did you do? Did you do that?
Of course, I think I did.
I can't remember. You played nearly every game. You played, I would say, over 3/4 of the season in the first team.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying in that respect, that's what you do. And I think sometimes you just have to present a challenge to people sometimes that just gives them that little bit of it's not a wake-up call, it's a little bit of, I've got to be on my toes today, type of thing, And all of a sudden you see the lad who's challenging you, he sprints up that, when he sprints up there, I'm going to do that. And because you're competitive, you're going to try and challenge that. And that's where you want to bring out in players a competitive nature that they've already got, that just might have just slipped off a bit. Richie Humphries is a prime example of it. He came back brilliantly from Port Vale, as I said. And I think we all need that. I've needed it as a player. I've needed a manager. You need a little bit of a flick now and again. It just brings you back into life a bit.
And looking back at that promotion season, there was lots and lots of highlights clearly through that run and then the promotion and everything that came with it. But was there a better feeling for either of you than 3,500, 4,000 Hartlepool fans singing "We Are Unbeatable" 3-0 up at the home of your bitterest rivals in Darlington?
Darlington, yeah, of course. By the way, what about those 2 goals Effian scored that day? Oh, I can see those. I can see his second goal like it was yesterday. Wow, what a goal that was!
I know. I just can't remember who passed him the ball, Danny.
I think I remember Micky. That was from the middle of the pitch as well, if you remember. It wasn't from a full-back area, was it?
To be fair, it was just a channel ball that he'd made look good.
Well, I don't think no. I'm going to disagree with you because I thought you were like in a like semi centre back position.
Yeah, it was sort of higher up the pitch. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, I remember playing it over.
Going back to that game, Danny, apart from the result, and we had a great night out afterwards. I remember we were talking about it. Me, Nelson, Ben Clark, and Richie went up to concert for all players. I don't know why, but we had a cracking night out. But before the game, I remember you getting us all with the towels over our heads with M&M in the dressing room.
Yeah,
and I just remember, and it's probably me being sceptical. I just remember thinking, there's got to be only me with a towel over the head here. I'm going to put it up, and everyone else is going to be like, "Way!" So what was that? Why was that done on that day, Danny? Was there a reason behind it?
Because of the words of it, the biggest one more than anything, if you remember it now, is you get one chance.
Yeah.
And I think if you don't take your chance, you regret it the rest of your life. You just get one chance in most things. And I think, would you have played your bitterest rivals again with so much riding on it? Because we were on a great run at the time, weren't we? That was the middle of our run, if I remember.
Yeah.
And that was our biggest challenge up until, obviously going to end the season when, we know we've got a chance. But should we have lost that game, I think it could have been a different story, because losing to your derby to your local rivals, everybody going out, the whole mood changes.
Yeah.
But what it did, it enhanced it even more. It got even bigger and better and more belief when you can go away from home and win like we did. and the goals that we scored, and Monks as well, like James and James Brown playing. I can remember James having a couple of good chances. Just things like it was a fun. That for me was what pushed us on for the final part of the season.
Yeah, I remember walking away after the game, feeling confident that after that game we were promoted. Yeah. Not in a way of like we don't need to try anymore, but just having that real belief that if that's what we've just done, there's nothing going to stop us from now on in.
I agree with you. I had a sense there, but there's nothing I can say like that. It's everything. Keep your feet on the ground and get on with the next game. But I felt then if you can respond like that in a game of that, and no matter if that could be Liverpool Everton, it didn't matter. It means just as much to the local community to go and get a result like we did. That was brilliant. So there's as much pressure on you as a Man United player playing against City like they will on Wednesday. It's the pressure games. You've got to try and come out of it with some sort of credibility for it. But it didn't just do that for us, not just credibility. It gave us an even bigger boost, for our promotion pushing.
Does it remain a bit of a not a regret, that's probably the wrong word, but a frustration that we didn't go on from the position we were in to get the silverware, to get to win the league?
Well, it was the last game of the season, wasn't it? Bristol Rovers, wasn't it? Should we have won that, would have been, champions, wouldn't we? Yeah, of course you do. You won that silver. You want to be crowned champions. Of course you do. You always want to finish as high as you possibly can, and we were one short of doing that. But the ultimate goal at the beginning of the season was get promotion. Yeah. By hook or by crook, and we did. And I think we did it in styling to a certain degree. Like I said, all the records that we broke, and as the run that we had. I think it was fantastic from the players' point of view that they'll go down the record books. They'll look at the record books, look at the name. I was part of that. Yeah. I think they can take that with pride. And I don't think people are looking at it saying, well, you only finished second. No, you're promoted. Yeah, you're promoted. You were promoted. And I think that's it's a secondary thing, but it is something that if you missed out, if you were third and missed out, you try and get better. You can't get better than promotion, can you? You got promoted. If you finish third in playoffs,
I've had probably 5 or 6 tweets about that season from people just who wanted to thank you, Danny, who's like, it's the most enjoyable season of football as a Hartlepool supporter that I've had. And then there was one of a lad who was 12 at the time that season, and he was like, I was so happy. And I thought that's how supporting Hartlepool was always going to be. He said that season was like my first season. I remember being a fan. And he said, I've almost like started at the pinnacle and it just dropped down ever since. But the response when you said you were coming on, I think a lot of people just wanted to say a thank you for that season in particular and the football we played.
Well, listen, Micky, if I reciprocally, I've got to say the same for them because they warmed to us. They didn't just warm to the players, they warm to me as well. And it's not always easy that, if you're not getting it right and you're letting your favourite go on loan and this, that, and the other, they take a bit of time to get together. But I think they saw what we're trying to do, and I think they saw some of the football that we played, which was excellent at times. And I sit back and, as I said to you before, as a manager, you just sit and watch and you think that's great. You don't have to clap it, you don't have to sit back and say shit, you just watch it with admiration. And I think some of them did that because the players played ever so well for the large parts of that season. And in doing that, they helped me as well to, I suppose, get on their better side, which was great. I just a bit sad that it fizzled out like it did at the end.
I tell you what was brilliant about that season, just a quick story for you. I remember at the time you won the LMA League 2 Manager of the Year that year, didn't you? Yeah. Despite the fact we finished runners up. And I remember there was pictures at the time of Richard Money straightening his tie, ready to go up on stage. The manager is Danny Wilson. Dickie Dosh. And Richard Money spent 15 minutes as manager of Hartlepool a couple of years ago, and he still talks about it now. If you look now, everyone who won the league, every single person who won League 2 won Manager of the Year. 1 year it didn't happen.
Oh well, football lot of surprises. That's what they say, isn't it?
We've spoken a lot about relationships, Danny. I think we'd probably have to. I know you mentioned them before, but the relationship with Ken as chairman in Iowa. How did you find that? I know I was starting my coaching journey with you, and I was in on some of the meetings, and I used to just it baffled you some of the stuff that you had to talk about in the meetings that we had. So can you just briefly describe the relationship you had with Ken and Iowa and all that?
Well, we didn't have one. That was a problem. We didn't have a relationship. Honestly, we didn't. It was. I said before, you cannot knock how they ran Hartlepool because of the resources at their disposal. They were offering to put money in every year. We knew that. And it was down to the beneficiaries of the people that were putting money into the club. We kept going. So you can't knock it for that respect. It's just very unorthodox. I've never come across it. Where the one of the things that I had to do a written report on every game by Monday morning. And Ken would be at the game. I said, Ken, what do you want to report for? Well, I'd like you to IRR. I said, well, you give him one. Pick the phone up and tell him how well we played. Oh, we won and this, that, and the other. And it got to a stage where I couldn't be asked doing it. I said, no.
I remember.
So Chris had started doing it. So one of the secretaries would do it. I said, what do you want to put into it? I said, put what you want to it. Ken was sat upstairs watching the game.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand that side of it. I didn't want to understand it because I had more important things to do. Coaching, the managing, the scouting, commercial, whatever you may be, the community stuff. I don't want to start writing, pen pushing on a Monday morning when I've got to get in that team, getting ready for the Tuesday night game. Yeah. And so that in respect, I didn't, we've got the preparation for the next teams to look at, Sundays and then Mondays when you get to the club. That's all my time taken up. I don't sit on my ass and have 25 pints on a Saturday night. You know what I mean? We're still looking for the next game. And that's what used to really frustrate me. I thought the priority was becoming a report and not the results, and how we were performing.
I think I've told this story before, Danny, but I remember sitting in, I was youth team coach at the time, and I think it was getting to the point where these reports were probably frustrating her a little bit, is being kind. Yeah. And so Chris had said, so what about first team, Danny? What you got to say about that? And he just went, shite. And Chris went, well, I can't write that. And he went, just put shit, because obviously we're getting beat. And then the next week or whenever I had the next meeting, you would get the minutes of the meeting. And obviously Chris had wrote out a report and I'd gone, so the gaffer said shit. And then there's this big long report that Chris had written for IOR. But I think it probably just was your frustration at the time that you didn't want to do it.
I didn't want to do it. I didn't see any point in it. I didn't really see any point in me doing it. Not when you've got members of the board sat there watching the game. And if he wants to put something in writing, I think that's chairman to his colleagues, whatever it may be, just saying, yeah, we played very well. Excellent today. Thanks very much. Yeah, the team's moving on. The team's doing well. What do you want me? I could put minute by minute what happened after watching the videos, blah, blah, blah. And it's just filed in a cabinet. Nobody read it. Nobody read it. It's boring.
Ian Butterworth used to do the reserve one, if you remember. So
yeah, I do, yeah.
On a Thursday afternoon, he'd come in the office where me and Becky were, because Becky used to do the shorthand for him. So he would just sit there and talk. But because he didn't like doing them either, he used to challenge himself to get as many animals in his report as so he'd there'd be a random, roars like a giraffe. And then,
just speaking about Budge, Denny, I think and Mark, we probably need to mention him at some point. I think he was a factor in the success we had, and sometimes it was like a comedy value with him as well. His coaching was great and that, but I just remember some of the stuff he used to. I'll never forget, there was one day Nels was doing a bench press, so Nels is straight away on this bench press, and Butch just comes across from him and leans right into his ear like this, and he goes, "Empoli defend deep," and just walked off, and Nels just nearly dropped the ball like that. And so afterwards, I've gone, Butch, what was that about? He went, I was just watching a game the other day and I thought Empoli defended deep, so I thought I'd tell Nels. It was just so random, some of the stuff he used to come out with.
Butch was very good at one time. I think he was a bit frustrated. I think he would have really liked to have been a manager, if I'm honest. Yeah. And possibly a bit frustrated. But he's had a great career up to date as well. He's still involved, so he's still enjoying obviously what he's doing. But I think it goes without saying that you can't manage your team on your own. You need all the people. You talked about Buster. Buster was there. And Buster and I'm trying to think.
James.
James, sorry, Jonathan James Aycock, yeah. You know, and all the back to we all, because it's a small club, everybody has to contribute because we can't do it on our own. We can't do it on our own. There has to be a togetherness and a trust in every department that you work with. The big clubs leave that to the 100 people that mill around the manager, you know, and he doesn't have to get involved with that. But when you're a small club, you do, you know, and you've got to try and have some sort of philosophy that everybody's got, you know, which is a trust, I suppose, and an enjoyment, and put a smile on your face. You don't go in the morning and have a face like a slapped ass, you know. It doesn't do anybody any good, you know, at least of all the person who's got their face like it, you know. So that's one of the things that we try to encourage all the time, and Butch was good at that. Butch was going to have a bit of fun with you.
Yeah, I spoke to James the other day. I did an interview I was saying to Mark for some of our students at school, and he's obviously worked at Huddersfield, and he went to Arsenal, and now he's at Spurs doing the under-23s.
Yeah.
And a lot of the kids wanted to know about Arsenal, wanted to know about Spurs, and one of the questions was, so far, what's been your most enjoyable club? And he said, for that exact reason, Hartlepool, because he felt like he was really offering something to the team, to the dynamic of the team. He said, now Spurs have got 8 physios that he has to speak to before anything's done. He said, the bigger you get, the sort of less worth you feel within that club. Yeah. And he said, so at that time in Hartlepool, I felt like I was really part of the first team and giving them a big help.
Yeah, I can't argue with that at all. I think it's right. Although you want to be at the top clubs, don't worry about that. But what comes with that is that separation from that togetherness, if you like, that real team spirit that you get when you're really tight knit. Yeah.
You talked, Danny, about the small club and the family club that Hartlepool was, and it probably wouldn't be right to do a podcast with you without touching on one of the possibly the most tragic chapters in the club's history, and when Michael Maidens passed away in October 2007. I mean, difficult to put into words, and I'm putting you on the spot, I guess. But what are your memories of that? And just
it'll be something I'll never ever forget the rest of my life, anyway, Mark, and all that, and the anguish and the sadness that his mum and dad and his family had when we went round to see them. I as a parent, it absolutely broke my heart, you know. And even I can see them now. I can see young Michael now. You know, I'm sure you can. You know, he was bright, he was bubbly, he was always smiling. He'd work his tail off for you, whatever he did. And when that news came through, that what had happened, it was I really didn't know what to do, other than we had to go round and, you know, convey our sympathies with his mum and dad. And it was tough, really, because they were still hurting really a lot, you know, at the time. And I still remember conversations that went on at that time. You know, and it wasn't easy in one respect. But I think I'm glad that we did it. I'm glad that we did show, you know, the compassion that was needed at the time. But how you ever get over that, I really don't know to this day. You know, there must be a big gap and a big hole that's missing from the family. And Michael himself, on a professional basis, I mean, he went out to York, if you remember. He went to York on loan, which did him a world of good as well. And I think coming back, who knows what he could have done, because he had everything that most players have. He's quick, he was dynamic, he could get past people. You know, he had a lot to learn in lots of parts of his game, but who doesn't at that age? And then to have that taken away from you, like you did, it was absolutely heartbreaking. And yeah, that was one of the saddest moments, I think, the club. You know, I'm sure there's other people will remember other things, but from my point of view, the saddest thing that ever happened to the club. Yeah.
It was very, very difficult. It's nice that the club still remember him to this day now, and I know it didn't happen this year because of the problems with fans and things, but they still go back to Victoria Park every year, I believe, closest to the anniversary, and remember him in the maiden suite at Victoria Park, which is great.
Oh, I know they've recently, in the process of moving the bench on from the training ground that we had when Michael died. We got a bench from the players, and I think they're going to restore it a little bit and put it inside the ground from what we hear. So, just for the fans to sit on before the match and hopefully remember, well, the fantastic goal he scored, but the person he was as well. Because, like you said, Danny, he was such a bright, lovely young man, and had a good career and a good life ahead of him, and it's just so sad. I just remember that. I remember two things with it. Is the funeral was, I hadn't been to many funerals at the time, and I remember Danny, you just saying, "There's no, we got to get through this as a sort of group, you know, and it was such a sad day. And then the next game in the huddle, the players just, like, people were actually still crying about it, you know, and it was almost like it's not fair putting the players through this game today because it was so emotional about the situation that just happened. But I think putting the bench in the ground will hopefully let people remember Michael and remember him for the young man he was.
Yeah, exactly right. And you know, it's I think from that perspective, I think, you know, it's not about just Michael. It's about his family and having the pride that, you know, that when they see that and know that all his friends have got together and sorted that out for him, that must be a great sense of pride from their point of view as well. You know, every time you go in there and you see that, I mean, it can bring a tear to my eye just talking about it now, honestly, because it was such a sad time. But now when they see it now, hopefully to bring back lovely memories and not bad memories. Yeah.
And Danny, towards obviously the end of your time at the club came fairly abruptly just before Christmas, didn't it, in 2008? And you know, there's always been a little bit of mystery about it in terms of you. I think you were in a new job within a week, and people were wondering whether there was something lined up. And I don't think that was the case, though, was it?
No, not at all. No. Ken came down and said, "You sacked." I said, "Okay." Results haven't been too good. I said, "Okay, that's fine." But I think we're about 10th or 11th in the league or something like that.
Was it because of your reports, Danny?
Yeah.
Was it because you weren't right?
Mate, I promise you, I think that has something to do with it. I think it's just because we weren't having the synergy that we should have, you know. And it was a bit of that, really, you know. And I thought, you know, let me get on my job. I'll do the job on the football. You do the other side of it, which you're good at. And but I think he wanted to get into both of them, and he knew that I didn't like that. So I think it was a clash of personalities, really, more than anything, and really not really allowing me to do my job. So when it came, it didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise me whatsoever. I can't remember what day it was anyway, but I remember coming in and just having a piece of paper and said, that's what it is. He signed that. I said, okay, I signed it and went. Well, I signed it.
As short as it is when you leave as a manager, something like that, just as
that particular one was, yeah, but because I think it was inevitable. You know, for whatever reason, it didn't particularly take to the way I managed. So listen, he's the owner, he's a chairman. He can make the decision whoever he wanted. But I didn't think it was a smart move at the time, if I'm honest. But you know, you go back into a job within a week, and you think, well, you must be doing something right. And I think I went to Swindon.
Yeah, Swindon. Yeah,
I went to Swindon. Yeah. So if anybody thinks there was anything, you know, that went on there before that, they're wrong. They're completely wrong. You know, just in the one morning, Chris came down with Ken and had a piece of paper and said, "You're off." Basically, not in those words, but you know, I might as well have said it that way.
Not the best ending, I suppose, to everything.
Listen, he didn't
hold some fondness for the club.
It didn't show anything for me, Mark, about the club and everything. My enjoyment, not whatsoever. But it surprised me more than anything. I thought I don't think it was the smartest of moves from their point of view, because I think we still would have gone on done all right that year as well, because it's still a good team. You know, and we've been promoted and we were lying halfway up the table. You know, so I'm thinking, hold on a bit, you know, give him a chance, never know what can happen here. You know, so, but we weren't to be, so you never know, like, you know. And I think Chris Turner took over, didn't they? And they just managed to stay up. You know, so is that success or is that not success? I don't know. How would you, after being in the position that we were when I get the sack and then just staying up, is that success or is that, you know, is that not success? I really don't know. But they'll possibly think it was success because they managed to get rid of me.
I tell you what, 11th in League One, I think Hartlepool fans would snatch your hand off for that just now.
It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah, it's amazing.
Right. Yeah. So, Danny, who would you say was your best signing for Hartlepool?
That's a difficult one, Mick, because I think in contribution ways, they all did their own bit in the areas where we bought them, you know, or brought them in to do. You know, so if somebody like Andy Munkhouse comes in and he does his business there, that's what he brought him in to do. They expected to do it, you know. And I don't know, Ali Gibb came in, or Willie Boland, you know, remember Willie? Yeah. Willie came in and he did all right in that position. They asked him to do it. But I think for what we needed at that time, I think it would have to be Richie Barker.
Yeah.
I think he was just the right position and the right player for that position for the team at that time. Because I just think his experience as well helped everybody. He was a great pro as well. You know, he was, like you say, he was always there for people. He was calm. You know, very, very good. I wouldn't like to upset him anyway. I wouldn't like to give me a right hand. I know that. Well, crikey. And but I've never seen him upset. He was always calm and and led the line well for us. So I think on the basis of just that, I would say yes to him.
Yeah, 14 years ago yesterday, or the day before, I think, when you signed Richie Barker.
14 years ago.
14 years ago yesterday, I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was January. It's January after signing, definitely, yeah.
Yeah, it was, yeah. I think
Yeah.
January.
I remember I played Barks at squash. We were on a management course and I beat him at squash, and the look he gave me after I beat him, I was like, I don't want to get a right hand off him either, because he's got that look in his eyes sometimes, hasn't he? Like that sort of like, I didn't expect that, and I'm not happy about it.
But he might not have been there, because the beginning of the season, I was very close having Danny Graham, and he's on deadline day in August, and it was 11 o'clock at night at a 12 o'clock deadline. 11 o'clock at night, he decided to go to Carlisle. So I've been waiting all that time to get somebody in, and I thought I got him tied up, the agent tied up, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, it went dead and went quiet. So I'm waiting, and it was 11 o'clock. I managed to get hold and said, I've decided to go to Carlisle. Fucking cheers. I could have been in bar fucking 3 hours ago. But hey, it was one of the things. But so he might not have been there really. But it's funny how things work out, isn't it?
There's another question that I'd seen on social media was, can you remember the conversation you had, if you had one, with Neil Cooper after the Bristol City? You were Bristol City manager in that epic semi-final where everything went on, didn't it, Micky? I know you didn't last the full 20 minutes at the end, but what a game of football. And there's that shot here of Neil Cooper sort of can't quite believe what's happened, and you come and shake his hand. Did you have a conversation with him after the game?
Well, you can have a few words. I don't think when you're in that position of Neil that you want any conversation. You're just completely stunned. I mean, we've come back from the dead. We get 2 goals in the last few minutes of the game. We're out of it at home. In the playoffs. So from that perspective, great from our point of view. Absolutely ecstatic. Because that's how you would feel. You'd be up there, but to be on the receiving end of it. I can't remember what I said to Neil. It's going to be something he said. I just said, that's unbelievable. You didn't deserve that. And they didn't. He could have gone to another game quite easily or extra time, whatever. But it was one hell of a humdinging game. I know that. A great game. Yeah.
I remember being in the training ground, Danny, and it had Sky Sports, the classics on the reruns. And it was Bobby Robson's first game. And I'll never forget it because I was like, I remember this game. Sheffield got absolutely battered this game. Was it 7-1 or 7-0?
8.
And you just turned around and went, yeah, no, I know, Micky, I was a manager.
8-0, Sheila got 5.
Yeah, I remember.
No,
it was Bobby Robson's first game, was it?
His first game back on the northeast, yeah.
Yeah, I'll never forget it. I was so happy watching the goals go in, and he just turned around and went, yeah, I was a manager.
I was so happy as well watching them goals go in. I can remember mine.
Oh, brilliant. Well, Danny, it's been such a pleasure catching up with you.
Really you as well. Thanks, boys.
At times, honestly,
enjoyed it.
Looking back on all of those. We won promotion on my birthday that year. That's all. In 2007, April 14th at Wickham. It was my birthday.
Was that your 40th?
It was my 40th, yeah. Best birthday ever, though. What a couple of scenes it was.
But Mark, just before we wrap this up, just sort of the type of person Danny is. I remember when Danny left, I used to have a few conversations with him and speak to him on the phone just about general life and stuff like that. And I used to go upstairs and make the phone calls in the house I used to live at the time. And I used to come downstairs and my wife used to turn around when you've been on the phone to Danny, haven't you? And I was like, how do you know? And she went, do you know why I can tell? Because the way you come off the phone, you're more positive, you're happy, you've got that spring in your step. And I think, I don't want to say it's a credit to Danny because I feel like I'm condescending, but to have that effect on people as a manager or as a person, I think it's something that I hope I could do to other people. Do you know what I mean? And I'll never forget, she always used to say, you've been on the phone to Danny because you're just a different person when you come off. And I think that from my perspective, that's a real good manager and a real good person. So I'd like to thank you for your time working with us as well, Danny. You don't often get the chance to say a thank you or to say how much you enjoyed it, the managers, because as you say, you're off and you're elsewhere and you don't catch up that often. But no, it was a pleasure and it was successful. So great times.
Micky, all I said, and I said to you at the time, and I'll say it now, it's when you're with good pros, it's easy. It's easy. Your job is so much easier, better, more enjoyable when you're with good pros, and that's what you were. So I had never a minute's problem with you, and that's why I think after all these years, you still pick the phone up and it sounds like yesterday, which I think is a bit like
it does, definitely,
great. Absolutely brilliant.
Micky, what a couple of hours that was. I think nearly speaking to Danny there. So good to speak to him. I haven't had a good conversation with him probably for years, and it's just amazing to reminisce like that.
Yeah, brilliant. As I said, nothing surprised me with Danny. You know what you're going to get with him. He's a genuinely nice person, brilliant football manager, but brilliant man manager as well. The way he used to handle the players and even speaking to him now, you get that sense of he's going to give you a little bit of wisdom at some point that you can use further down the line, either in your life or in football. And just a nice person to be around. And I think we can all learn a lot from him. He's quite a positive person as well. He doesn't like things that are negative to come close to him at all. And it's a shame that he's not involved in football anymore. You wish he was involved in passing on his sort of wisdom to other people.
No, a brilliant one to come back with. I know I sent you a message and I've said it to you before, Mick, but doing this podcast and the reaction it had from people, back during the first lockdown was one of the things that helped me through not just the lockdown, but a pretty traumatic time in my life as well. So thanks for reprising the role with me this evening. And
well, it's Mark. I love to talk anyway, and obviously we're really good friends, and to get people on that you've spent a lot of time with. But like you said, I've not spoken to Danny for a couple of years, and I haven't seen him at any games, so it's really nice. And as I say, I know what a tough period it was for you. I've been there myself, and I know. You just want to talk sometimes and have a laugh and forget about what's going on in the world. And I think with the lockdown situation as well, it helped everyone at the time. And to be honest, it's almost got a new celebrity as well, because my fridge is getting sponsors galore now. It's been offers to go on trial places. It's been offered. My missus wanted to change them. I was like, there's no way we can get rid of our fridge. I'm thinking about setting up its own Twitter page to see if it gets them.
Somebody will already have done that, I'm sure. Or they will have by the time we watch this back.
Yeah, and I would open it up to show you what's inside, but we haven't had a shop delivered, so it's full again.
Well, Micky, look after yourself, and everyone listening, watching, please look after yourself. We've come back with this one. Who knows what's around the corner? We'll see if there's time or the scope to do anything else. But we just wanted to come back and say, put a little bit of smiles on people's faces again at the beginning of the lockdown.
Definitely, and as I say, people got to understand how hard it is for yourself, mainly that how long it takes. But if there are any other guests that people would like to mention or that we haven't had on, or just let us know. And as I say, when we get time, we'll try and do something. And as I say, just keep it running, because I know people do enjoy it, or most people.
Well, Happy New Year to everyone and to you, Micky, and we'll see you next time.